I'm Jeremy White, and it's Bills Patriots for the second time, something other teams haven't had too much of a look at.
I'm Joe Marino, and the Patriots want what the Bills have had, and the Bills need to not let that happen.
I'm the big O, Jerry Ostroski. Not only is this a battle for the AFC East, is it also a battle for the NFL MVP? You're watching the Locked On Network, and this is Bill Squad.
Who's ready, Bills Mafia? It's the Bills Squad. Everything Buffalo Bills, every week. Breaking down the big hits and game-changing plays the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So gear up and squad up. The Bills Squad show starts now.
Welcome in, Bills Mafia, the Bills Squad show. We are back with you for our midweek episode, a little bit of a recap of Cincinnati, but mostly turning our eyes to the New England Patriots, and we'll chop it up from every angle. This is the Bills Squad show. I'm Jeremy White, host on WGR 550 in Buffalo for 20-plus years. He is Joe Marino, host of the Locked On Bills Daily podcast and many trades regarding the Bills and covering the Bills in the NFL. You can find all his stuff at thejoemarino.com. And also Big O, Jerry Ostroski, over 100 starts with these Buffalo Bills, a man that knows the trenches and has an extensive knowledge of the injuries that come out of those trenches as well. I feel like we're always getting into that, Jerry. So, all right, Bills-Patriots, round two, the clash for the crown. Lots of stuff. It's a juicy game. I had Ben Volin of the Boston Globe on this week. And here's what I want to kind of start with on the rematch, guys, because this is a fun little angle. The Bills are favored, and I don't know if everybody has noticed this, but New England at large has noticed this, and they're kind of freaking out about it. They're asking Mike Vrabel about point spreads and who sets the lines, and Vrabel's talking about, well, it's just odds makers in Vegas. So a little bit of a storyline as New England tries to, I guess, play underdog, but they are underdogs in this game, and I think they're kind of settling in with that. It's an odd thing because I do think it kind of challenges them and their idea that this division is about to be theirs for the taking.
It's a little bit like that game against the Dolphins a few years ago where I think the Bills were unexpectedly the favorites in the game. And remember this?
Yeah,
whatever that was. Bradley Chubb was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh Allen put the icing on the cake and did that for his touchdown celebration. Like, okay, yeah, you guys are the hot shots. You're the contender coming through that wants to take it, and you don't quite understand why the spread's the way that it is, but it's definitely something that I'm sure Mike Vrabel loved. When that first line came out, it was Bills -1.5. You knew that was something Mike Vrabel was really happy about. At home, Patriots off the bye, they're underdogs. Talk about an opportunity to kind of rally your team and galvanize them with that. Obviously it's the football game that's got to be played on Sunday, and all these factors, they're fun to talk about. It's ultimately going to be who executes right on Sunday, but certainly something that New England can rally around.
Exactly. And you look at the first matchup earlier this season and, 23-20, the Bills lose. And it was one of those games where it was over. You're scratching your head like, what the heck just happened? I mean, it was fumbles, it was bad luck, things like that. So while the Patriots had their way in the passing game, and of course Stephon Diggs had a big game, Drake Maye had a big game, made some of those Josh Allen type throws up against the sideline, the Bills still only lost by 3, and they were right in the middle of the game and very easily could have won it. So I'm sure Vrabel's just chomping at the bit with the underdog role this week, and it's right into his MO, right? If you're writing a script about the Patriots and what they're about, it's nobody thinks we're any good, and I'm the new coach. It goes right in line with it. And I'm sure Vrabel, his team meetings are very long-winded this week with a lot of Vrabelisms, as he likes to put out there, right in line with what they're about.
Jerry, is that a tale as old as time, or do you think that in the age of social media and all this coverage that every coach, every team kind of playing the us against the world thing has been amped up a lot?
Yeah, I think it has been amped up a lot, and especially amped up a lot with a young football team. With obviously they're talented, but they still have a lot of young players that kind of eat into that stuff, and they like that thing, and it's almost kind of got a bit of a college feel to it, right? But let's face facts: this Bills team's rolling in December. They're battle tested. They're tried and true. Josh Allen doesn't have the nickname, Winter Soldier, Buffalo Soldier, whatever you want to put on him. Be just fly by night. This football team proves itself year after year that they are a team that wins games in December. So come up with all the the speeches and everything you want. The fact is, when the ball snapped or kicked for the first time on Sunday, all that's out the window. And it's about two teams playing each other. And this Bills team is battle tested at this point in time in this time of the year.
1.5 point favorites are the Bills. The Bills get their own angle of this, though, right? So Mike Vrabel can say, we're underdogs. How about that? They're not respecting you. The Bills actually get backs against the wall. McDermott said it before the Cincinnati game, and here it is. If we lose, our reign at the top of the division is over. Now, the division is a nice accomplishment. It is, however, not the ultimate goal. So if the Bills do lose this game, or if they don't win the division, they're big underdogs to, ultimately catch New England, we will immediately turn our eyes to other goals and bigger things. Whereas I do think in New England, Joe, if this season ends and they win the division and lose in the first round of the playoffs or the second round of the playoffs, they're probably going to feel the way that we did in 2020, right? When the Bills finally arrive and go to the title game and lose. It's a very quick, all right, whatever, we're good. Like, the future is so bright, and let's get to work here. So I think New England has like a short-term goal, but also reasonably, good excuses once they ultimately lose. Like, they've got to be feeling good pretty much no matter what.
Yeah, it's an interesting position that they're in, especially when you consider the last few years have just not been very good, right? They've been picking towards the top of the draft, picking in the top 5 the last 2 years, earning those picks, and now they've won 11 games and they've played 14, and they're in position to win the division. They're in position to maybe have the number 1 seed, and so it's always interesting to see teams that feels like the success comes a little quicker than anyone expected, and then what does that mean for how you build the thing moving forward? I go back to that year, Brian Daboll's first year with the Giants. It was also Kevin O'Connell's first year with the Vikings, and the Giants went 9-7. They got to the playoffs. And I think they made a lot of mistakes with looking at what they had, not being real honest about the overall situation, and then, not being committed to their long-term vision. And they kind of bring back Daniel Jones. They make some personnel moves that don't really work out, where Minnesota, I think they realized that, all right, we probably overachieved, and, they kept purging and resetting their roster. And now I think they're in different points today for different reasons, but, how does New England handle this? Now, they're still in pretty good shape. They have a lot of resources moving forward, but they're very quickly going to go from a team that was able to pick in the top of the draft a few years to the same challenges the Bills have. All right, you're picking at the end of the first round. They do have a bunch of cap space that you start getting a bunch of good players, and that changes. And so, obviously there's a lot on the table for New England, but as somebody who really loves the team building component, I am really, really interested to see how this finishes. And then, what are those next moves that they make to try to sustain the success and, of course, go even further.
Obviously New England has done a good job of building this football team back from the dead. I mean, it wasn't too long ago we're talking about firing Belichick and, a team that's picking in the top 5 all the time. And they have done a great job with obtaining talent and getting this roster back to a level that is very good. But when I look at these two teams this year, and I'm sorry, I can't not look at this. It's almost like, Buffalo's playing a SEC schedule, and the Patriots have played a MAC schedule. When you look at their games, what's the last really big game the Patriots have played? Probably the Bills, not too long, a long time ago in Buffalo. And I look at, even with point differential, New England's 3rd in the league in point differential. The Bills are the much, much tougher scheduler, 6th. They're not that far behind them. And, that's what I look at here. And I start talking about December, and I look at quarterbacks that have had that opportunity to battle in December in big games. All that stuff keeps going back to the Bills. And I think that's why you've got Buffalo as a 1.5 point favorite in this game. There's historical data, and there's also recent data that show that they should be held in that esteem. So it'll be interesting. I mean, one thing that I want to see is if Buffalo goes up there, it takes care of business and gets after them and beats them pretty good, which could happen. Mm-hmm. What happens to this New England franchise? Does it crumble, or does it steal itself and then win the rest of its games and move into the playoffs that way? So there's a lot of interesting storylines between these two opponents this weekend.
Yeah, their adversity came in the first couple games of the season. Right. They lose to the Raiders, which, today looks ridiculous, and then lost to the Steelers with a ton of turnovers. So we'll see where they're at with this Bills game. If the Patriots win, I'll put it this way, guys. I think whoever wins this game, they won't be crowned as the favorites to win the AFC necessarily. The Bills might already kind of be there with the way the playoff picture looks, But if New England were to win it, man, sweeping the Bills is quite the resume builder, right? And they would then get the same conversations like, wait a minute, there's no Chiefs in their way. There's no Lamar Jackson. I mean, he doesn't look like he's going to make the playoffs. And even if he does, he doesn't look the same. So the winner of this game might just kind of be the presumptive favorite to win the AFC, with, I guess, Denver lingering too. But, for the talking points, the winner has a lot to gain, I think, in the eyes of the NFL in a wide open AFC.
100%, where this is going to be a playoff field with Josh Allen and who, right? And I think that's going to matter a ton for whatever the seeding is ultimately going to be. Nobody's going to want to play the Bills, right? Like, no matter how this finishes, you don't want to deal with Josh Allen in the playoffs, arguably the greatest playoff quarterback the league has ever seen. And so that's huge. And they're obviously going to be a team that's entering this postseason that's by far the most battle tested. And so regardless if the Bills are the 2 seed, the 3, the 6, the 7, whatever it is, Josh Allen, I think they're the team that nobody wants to have to play.
I think the other thing you got to look at, fellas, is also there's light at the end of the tunnel as far as the Bills' injury situation goes. We've got some pretty good news this week. And while I don't want them to rush Joey Bosa back to where we have a hiccup and then we miss him more time, but if he can play, we play him. But seriously, if you look at it, and then the possibilities of Ed Oliver coming back, Ed's on Instagram doing push-ups yesterday. Obviously, he's chomping at the bit to get back. There's a lot of good news, or at least good aura, around this injury situation, where for so long this season, it's been such a down point, it's been so hard on this football team to overcome the level of injuries that they've had. But it is nice to see that light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that, things setting up going into the playoffs maybe are setting up pretty good.
Yeah, the injury report for the Bills, like the light at the end of the tunnel. We'll see. I saw some video of Joey Bosa working today. Terrell Bernard's got a big arm brace on, but you've got limited participants. The only player that did not participate in practice on Wednesday was Dawson Knox, who was out with a personal matter, and he's back today. Josh Palmer, limited. Spencer Brown, Joey Bosa, limited. I think Spencer Brown even told reporters he's going to be good to go. So you might get the healthiest version of the Bills. Meanwhile, New England's down a couple of key starters, and this is like, maybe you've heard this stat or maybe you haven't. I know, Joe, you've got some of these on before and after Milton Williams. Like, it's just a different Patriots team. They've early in the year were able to kind of lean on one game script where they weren't going to get run on. And that has changed in a very big way. They've gone from one of the top 5 run defenses, one of the top 5 run defenses in the league to bottom 5 run defense in the league, missing Milton Williams in the middle. And that sets up for a Bills team that kind of, maybe they know who they are a little bit more right now, that they will be leaning into James Cook in matchup number 2.
Yeah, and Milton Williams is a really good football player, and where this has really showed up for New England is their inability to defend zone runs, right? That's where Milton Williams, with his range and athleticism, is going to be really dynamic, working laterally and making plays. They hadn't had him, and his replacement is a player that's polar opposite. It's Corey Durden, who's 310 pounds and more of a stout penetration style player, not a guy that's going to really work laterally. And they've missed Milton Williams, and I think that's affected things. They're actually over their last 4 games, they have the highest success rate against them of zone runs, and they're giving up 6 yards per carry. It's the most yards per carry against zone runs. And so I think no Milton Williams plus the Bills getting Spencer Brown back is going to be a big deal for their ability to win in those zone run schemes, whether that's widening the edge, whether that's setting up cutback opportunities. Spencer's going to be a huge part of that. I think Ryan Vandermark did all he could in the last few weeks, but with all due respect, he's just not Spencer Brown, who is the best run blocker the Bills have. I think that's probably pretty fair, and especially with how he works in concert with Osiris Torrance, with the doubles, how he gets to the second level. That's going to be big for the Bills to maximize their zone rushing offense, and so that's got to be a big part of this equation for the Bills. James Cook, zone runs, get after it.
No, I think so too. I mean, this is a thing where Milton Williams is a game wrecker. He's a game changer. And you like to think that one player doesn't make that big of a difference, but he does. That's why they got him out of Philadelphia, paid him the big money. He dominates on the inside, and one less guy to worry about in there. Hopefully that opens some things up to where the Bills can have some success in that running game on the inside of the tackles, because we know that the New England Patriots did such a good job of limiting the cutback game of James Cook in game 1. So they're going to have to press up inside. I'd like to see James kind of press those runs up the middle first and then get to the outside in the second level. So we'll see how that works, but not having Milton Williams is a big deal.
Jerry, I want to give you a question that was asked of me that I pretty much backed myself into a corner having to ask, but as you and I have both acknowledged, the Patriots and their corners and how they fit the run and they slow play, they're really, really good. Yeah. And some of that is assisted by the Bills with their formational width, right? A lot of condensed sets, and that brings everyone closer to the action. How would you deal with those corners and how they can fit? What's the right schemes? Is it getting back into some more spread? But what do you think?
Well, you talk about spread. I don't think we're going to line up and shoot and go four wides or anything like that, but just basic 11 personnel, two, either 2x2 or 3x1 as far as put the twins to the tight end side, but have them out to the numbers, or get one receiver to the tight end side and two to the other side and go 2x2, try to widen out that secondary. The other thing the Bills can do that I thought they did good against Pittsburgh was they really played some games in those compressed sets with the tight end and the two receivers, or two tight ends and one receiver, whether it be Shakir and Hawes and whoever, and Cook, or I'm sorry, and Dawson Knox. Now that you got Kincaid back, you can do that, or Shavers, Kincaid, and Hawes, to where they changed up how they blocked. It wasn't just normal double teams. They would run fold schemes, take one guy straight to the other guy. So you can do some stuff there. And the thing I like about that is this. If secondary guys get used to a receiver stalk blocking them right off the line of scrimmage, that sets up play action big time, to where here he comes. It's the fourth time in a row he's going to come block me. Then all of a sudden he puts his foot in the ground and goes and gives you some good play action stuff. So, you can go to more conventional pro stuff with, like I said, 3x1 width or 2x2, but those compressed sets, if they keep jacking around with the way they block with their angles and things like that, they can set up some good play action off of it.
This show, you're going to get those kind of breakdowns. You're going to get Drake Maye v. Josh Allen. That's what we're going to get to on the other side. December Josh against the guy that's still got a lot to prove. And also, when we get back, what Drake Maye said about those comparisons to Josh Allen. The nerve of this guy, let me tell you. It's coming up here on the Bill Squad Show. This episode of Bill Squad brought to you by Aura Frames. That's right, Aura Frames. You can, of course, go to AURA Frames to check it out. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is upon us. And if you are looking for something personal, guaranteed to get a reaction, then Aura Frames, the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap. It's something that is a way to share memories, because Aura is not your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles with Aura Frames. And grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos, endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos throughout the Aura app. So if you've got someone in your life looking for exactly the right gift, maybe that's it. Packaging comes gift ready, no price tag, no wrapping needed. Huge win. It's a holiday gift that actually gets used, not gets forgotten in a drawer. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter. Use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's auraframes.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. So I want to tell you what Drake Maye said about Josh Allen and the bulletin board material here. Guys, I'm going to find a way, right? I always want to do that. Find a way to get some bulletin board material. So Drake Maye asked about the comparisons to Josh Allen. Said, I think it just gives you guys something to talk about. I think I'm a long ways away from playing like him. He's the best in the game. The nerve of this guy. Giving us nothing? You're giving us nothing? It's kind of funny. Like, as a Bills fan, watching the Patriots, you don't want them to get a great quarterback. I've enjoyed watching Maye. Like, I think he's a fun watch. I'm just waiting for anything dislikable about him. He's up there talking about his wife's baking videos, and then he's like, oh, Josh Allen's the best quarterback there is. And it's just like, I got to find something. So it's not working to find something not to like this guy. I think he's a heck of a competitor, a heck of a player. And this game is like, it's his next biggest stage, right? It's a 1:00 game, but you're up against Josh Allen. And guys, maybe the biggest sign of respect will be how well Josh plays. Because as we've seen all year, he saves his best for the best. So if we get peak Allen, I think that's a sign that there's a lot of respect going the other way.
But I think you got to look at it this way too. I don't know if you followed the Dominic Raiola situation in Nebraska. Just everything he does is basically
Mahomes.
he mimics Mahomes down to the 15 and the haircut. Hell, he's even got the same quarterback coach, right? I think that Maye's listening to him in this press conference. Who does that sound like? That sounds like something Josh Allen would say. So I'm sure if you really gave him the truth serum and said, "What do you know?" He probably emulates Josh Allen quite a bit. So props to Maye. It's funny. You go into one of these rivalry games like this, and yeah, you hate the Patriots, but my goodness, I can't dislike the quarterback. I mean, he's an awful good one, and it seems to be a good dude.
And Josh has been asked a lot about Drake Maye recently as well. And there's been a couple of times now where you could tell that the person asking the question is trying to get Josh Allen to say that he's doing a lot to help Drake Maye as a football player and teaching him things. And Josh is like, yeah, we spend time together because we have the same agent, but we're just talking about life. He's like, I'm not really doing anything to help him. He's a good player. He's figuring out on his own. It's slowing down for him. He looks really, really good. So there's been that respect from Josh Allen's side as well. The question that I have for both of you, and I'd be stunned if Jerry knows the answer. Maybe Jeremy knows the answer.
Okay, ready.
What is the deal with the Drake Maye thing? What is this? This feels like the 6-7 of the NFL, and I don't know what's going on.
I'm pretty sure what that is that there was a little bit of a push to try to give him a nickname, and they kind of landed on, what if we just called him Drake Maye? So then it's Drake Maye. The idea being like no nickname. His nickname is his name. So I'm pretty sure that's where we're at. And it kind of became a meme. It's probably a lot like naming something Bodie McBoatface, right? Let's just lean all the way into this guy doesn't have a nickname because, he's boring in the way that he talks, right? He's in the good way. Like in the media, he's boring. He's like, he's always deferring and just, whatever, a nice young likable kid who's going to try and rip the Bills' hearts out, of course. So I think that's the answer for you.
Jeremy didn't disappoint. Jerry, did you have a clue? I had no idea. I just see this.
I never heard of Drake Maye. I've never even heard of it. So
now you're in.
I'm impressed that you brought it up, honestly.
Well, it's been brought to my attention a few times, and I'm like, I don't know what this means. I think Jeremy's got a chance of knowing this.
So as we look forward to this matchup, Joe, I want to get your thoughts, and Jerry, on the all-22 we saw last week, because we saw the Bills play the Cincinnati Bengals, and Joe Burrow had his way with the defense to a point. They made a couple of big plays. Do you feel like it's the same kind of mindset this week where you think that the Patriots are going to get theirs because Maye is good enough to get some, and it comes down to making a couple plays in this game? What did we learn from the Cincinnati all-22 about how the Bills defend a great pocket passer right now?
Well, I think one thing we learned is that speed and twitchiness do not translate in bad road conditions. Looking at that film, I mean, obviously the snow affected the Bills as much as it affected anybody else, and you just watch that defensive line kind of skate around. I think some of the, obviously they went to a ton of man in the second half, but maybe some of the reluctance to do some of that in the first half had to do with some of the field conditions and more snow coming down. They just kind of, soft shoot around the field quite a bit. So, and I think that Higgins and those guys did a good job of just finding spots, turning and using their size advantages against some of the guys the Bills were defending with. So I think it'll be different because the field obviously will be different, but no, I mean, I think you have to continue, and it's going to come down to, even if Joey Bosa comes back, guys, let's really get into this. I mean, I think he has 5 sacks on the season. It's not like we're going to go out there and have, one-on-one win rates at a high level. You're still going to have to figure out how to manufacture pass rush, which means when you manufacture pass rush, you got to play some kind of man in the back end. And I think what I learned anyway was there's just is, and I know we hear McDermott use the term all the time, the pass rush doesn't mesh up with the coverage. You can really see that in this Bengals game. And they're going to have to figure out a way to get better at that in this game to eliminate some of the big plays that these New England receivers had against the Bills in game 1.
In this 13-game journey of watching the Buffalo Bills 2025 defense, it's always on the coaching staff to coach above their talent. Every single game, with all due respect, they have to coach above their talent. There's not a lot working with this defensive line. This defensive tackle situation is really poor. I mean, borderline unserious with the struggles that they have. And, you're not able to win one-on-one matchups on the perimeter if you don't have Joey Bosa with any level of consistency. Greg Rousseau is a good compression style rusher that's going to be able to, collapse the pocket in time, right? He's a slow burn guy. Not a sack artist. And so everything's going to have to be coaching above the talent. And they do a pretty good job of that, but there's always going to be limitations. You have to overcome not having starting caliber defensive tackles, not having defensive end depth, having severely limited players in your secondary and Jordan Poyer and Trey White. This coaching staff's doing a phenomenal job getting anything out of this group. So it's always going to be, how do you coach above this talent? And I think that's where you go back into your 5-man pressures. You go into your spy mirror stuff, your disguise elements, whatever you can do to overcome what you're lacking is what's going to be required on a weekly basis.
And I think there's three telltale signs to this too, what Joe just had to say. One is that a rookie like Deion Walker, who in normal situations would maybe play 10 or 12 plays, maybe, people are hanging their hat on him like he's some sort of amazing player when he's got a ton of limitations. Thank goodness he can play a little bit. That the insertion of an older vet like Shaq Thompson off a major injury, a couple major injuries, solidifies the middle that much that everybody can see it. And then the other one being a 30-some-year-old guy that's out the door and retired comes back in the lineup in Jordan Poyer and makes that big of a difference. That's what you got to look at. That's what this staff is dealing with. And that's why it always bothers me when we hammer coaching. And I'm like, y'all don't understand what they're doing with what they got. It's like baking cakes without having any eggs and milk, man. It's wild.
So I had a stat on this for you. This came from Chris Janke, who
Chris Janke.
Yankee.
That's our guy. What's up,
That's our guy. What's up, Yank?
You know what Chris pointed out on Twitter? The Bills are tied with one other team for the most practice squad elevations this season, which can speak to injury, can speak to guys not getting it done. You know who they're tied with?
The Giants.
Yeah. Who are picking first right now.
Yeah.
They have the Giants are in dead last, and it's Bills and Giants tied with the most practice squad elevation. So like that's to your point about you're making cake and you're just substituting ingredients and doing whatever you can do to try to get this thing rolling. Go ahead, Jerry. You got something?
Well, I was going to say is that just shows you, while the fine line between coaching and players. Coaching will win you a lot of games, but to get to the level we all want to get to, championship level, you got to have the talent.
Yeah,
you've got to have the talent. No coach is any good without players. I don't care what their scheme is. They're not any good unless they got players. So this staff has this team where it is. Thank God we got the best quarterback in the league to be able to get us over the top, right? But other than that, I said it the other day, this is like the year without a Santa Claus, man. It's like the land of misfit toys right now, especially on the defense.
Well, they're trying to hold it together, and they held it together against the Bengals, right? There were 3 touchdowns on 3 drives, and then from there, it's just getting by a couple times. A stop at the end of the first half, the pick 6, of course, by Benford. Like back-to-back picks is a big way to switch it, to turn a game around. I guess the question I have for you is, what will they do differently this time? Would you expect it to be another Stephon Diggs heavy script, or the Bills have a different answer for how they're going to defend the passing weapons in this passing attack?
I think that's what gives me some optimism about this game is how different things are compared to week 5. And I think before we even get into that, let's just acknowledge the goofiness of that game. Remember the Dawson Knox end around fumble on the first drive?
They're not calling those anymore.
The Keon Coleman fumble on the second drive. Josh Allen throwing a pick when they're 1st and goal from the 7. Like 11 penalties for 90 yards. I don't know if maybe like 10% of that doesn't happen. Maybe the Bills don't lose by 3. Meanwhile, Phi Mathis and Zion Logue are defensive tackles in that game off the practice squad. I think the Bills are in a lot better spot. Matt Milano popped his pec early in that game. And it's also before Taylor Rapp was taken out of the lineup, which is a huge, huge deal. And this defense has really, really stabilized in a lot of ways. Not that they have amazing talent, but just the way that they run the scheme is so much better with what they have in the mix currently. And so one of the big challenges that the Bills have this week is Stephon Diggs, who, of course, had a huge game in week 5, but really hasn't been that type of guy every week. But he's now playing in the slot almost exclusively, over 70% of his snaps the last 3 weeks in the slot. What are the Bills going to do about that? I don't think you can just put Taron Johnson on there. No. I don't think Taron Johnson is able to handle that right now. But are you going to play Benford in the slot? Like, how do you adjust to them putting Diggs in the slot? Because that's one of my biggest concerns is how do you handle that matchup? And I don't know that the Bills are in a good spot to really be able to take it away.
Can I quick on Benford? people will suggest this. What is the trouble with if you put Benford into the slot? Because he does not take a lot of snaps there. Is it that it kind of changes the rest of your principles? Like, what happens if you try to put Benford there?
Well, you got space, right? And if you listen to Chase after the last Bengals game, he made it a point to say what about Christian Benford and the way he played him. He used the term he's very handsy, right? He's getting hands on you. He's making up for some of that top end speed he doesn't have at the top of routes by being really good at not letting receivers get off the line of scrimmage. He's gotten very good at that in his maturation and playing, more man over time, because he's always been kind of known maybe a little bit more as a zone corner. And so he's got better at that. When you put him at the slot, now you've got space between those two receivers, and you're not able to get the hands on them as quickly. So therefore, those receivers get a little bit more of a head start. And then you got situations where you got Benford in the chase scenario where that's not necessarily his strength, chasing Stephon Diggs all over the field.
Yeah, you want to play 2-man, sure,
Yeah.
right? Like you could play Hairston and Trey White as your outside receivers, and I think those are fine matchups against Butte and Hollins. And then you could play Benford, one-on-one against Diggs in the slot with 2 leverage safeties over top. I don't hate it. The problem is you're going to play man coverage against Drake Maye. You're not going to have eyes in the backfield. What's your plan to kind of overcome that? Because Drake's, I think he's 3rd in scramble yards this year, and obviously he's very, very good in terms of dual threat. And so, honestly, Babich and McDermott get paid the big bucks. And if you're going to zone it up, then I do think the spacing is extremely weird if Benford's playing in the slot.
But I also think we'll probably see, and I think game plan has dictated this across the season. I think with Drake Maye now at quarterback, we'll see McDermott and Babich move more to what we saw in Kansas City with that true blue spy look and hiding the spy and more of the dime rush situation that they used against Mahomes, as opposed to just all out blitzes and playing man to where we're turning our back and not accounting for Drake Maye out of the backfield.
Yeah, and that's how they got the big stop. If you go back to week 5, the Bills were down 20-17. And had to punt the ball to New England. And New England went 3 and out. And Shaq Thompson got a sack on 3rd and 5. It was on the spy mirror play. I'm sure everyone, I don't know, I remember this play very well. And Shaq Thompson was able to track him down on the perimeter, and then the Bills got the ball back, and they kick a field goal and enough time for Drake Maye to go score, get a field goal to win the game. But they're going to have to lean into that to give themselves a chance to kind of take some of that away. So this is the right week to get the spy mirror back. Against Burrow, Davis Mills, and Aaron Rodgers, you didn't need it. You needed it sometimes against Baker. You needed it a lot against Pat Mahomes. You're probably going to need it a decent amount this week against Drake Maye.
One last thing I saw, Carl Jones talks Bills here, covers the Bills in Buffalo, Channel 4. It kind of gets to your point that you guys have been making about what the Bills are doing defensively. He said that kind of what they're forced to do is, he made a comparison like a blackjack player hitting on 16. Like you got to get weird with what the Bills are doing. You got to throw unexpected stuff, even if it might not look fundamentally right. Just like the recipe, these ingredients are such misfits that it's like, do weird stuff, because that's ultimately you want chaos from the defense.
Yeah, you should not blitz Joe Burrow 44% in the second half of a game. But under those circumstances of snow, you can't get organic pass rush. Burrow's got the foot thing going on, and you hurry up his process and you mess up his sequencing. Even if you're not actually getting pressure or harassing Joe Burrow, it affected his process, and you got a couple inaccurate throws that led to just a couple of stops. That's all you're looking for, right? Just a couple of stops. And so what levers can you pull? What strings can you pull to find yourself in that position to overcome things and maybe get that big play that you're needing defensively? Of course, I do think that's where those back-to-back takeaways came. Like it's whatever. It was a cat blitz and a tip ball, but because Burrow was sped up because of the blitzes that were happening, I think you create that. You create your luck a little bit, and we'll see what McDermott has in store this time.
Yeah.
Very good. When we get back, we have each picked an X factor for this game. What will be different, or what is the thing to watch that could determine who wins it? So it's coming up. Got you covered here on the Bill Squad Show. This episode of Bill Squad is brought to you by Game Time. Yeah. Game Time, a great spot to check out the World Cup. It's coming back to North America for the first time since 1994 with 48 teams, the first time ever. It's going to be massive, but getting tickets is usually the hardest part, and that's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time. That helps quite a bit, right? And buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app. The layout makes it simple. Scroll through the matchups. Compare seat views. It's a nice feature. Pick a game, tap a section, have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for the fine print. The seat view feature is a game changer. You literally see what the pitch looks like from your exact seat before you buy. Prices include fees up front, which I love. No last second surprises at checkout. Alerts for teams and matches. That matters quite a bit as well. You can get in instead of missing out. So you can use code LOCKEDONNFL. That's right. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for this with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, Game Time. Time to get to our X factors for this second matchup of Bills and Patriots. If the Patriots win the game, they will win the AFC East. It is over. If the Patriots lose this game, well, they would need to lose again, and the Bills would need to run the table. But in a lot of scenarios, the easiest one is that the Patriots just beat the Jets and the Dolphins. They win the division. It doesn't matter what the Bills do. So something to keep in mind. But the Bills need to win to keep things alive going forward. All right, gentlemen, I gave you a homework assignment. I said, let's have it. Let's have your X factor for this game. And Jerry, why don't you lead us off first? Let's get to your X factor.
My X factor is the average starting field position for the Bills offense. Our special teams, as far as return game and the kickoff kickoff return has not been good. I think we're last in the league at right about 28, the 28-yard line. And my X factor is we've heard anyway that Hardman has been practicing and have been back on the field and practicing things like that. The last time the Bills had a lot of success in the return game was when Hardman was involved. That spiked up to about their own 36.8-yard line between Hardman and Ray Davis, that game returning kicks. So we hear about a new special teams coach and all those things. The Bills have to get better at average starting position on offense because this is not an offense. Now, we see it sometimes, but we know how they are. It's play action. It's run the ball. It's a grinded out type of thing now as we try to get our feet in the wide receiver room. We kind of know how we are now. We know how we're built. It hurts when you average starting field position is 28-yard line. Penalties drop you inside of that. They've got to do better and get this thing in front of the 30. I'd like to see in front of the 35 and give this offense an advantage when they get the ball, on the field. So I think that's the X factor. We got to find a way to get better starting field position for our offense in this game this weekend.
Special teams, how about a quick grade there, guys? Like over the course of the season, you just kind of laid out some of the numbers, Jerry. What can they do to get better there? Is Hardman's return a big part of that? If he comes back, when he comes back?
It is, but I'm going to tell you this, and this is something that I learned a long, long time ago, okay? And if you watch the Bills against the Bengals, even in the snow, the Bengals were ripping off big returns as well. Their average starting field position was well past the 35 in that game. They haven't been great covering kicks either. But as I've been told a long time ago, if you look at a team and they're struggling on their kick teams or their special team stuff, it's usually indicative of depth issues on the football team. So it falls hand in hand with what the Bills got going on with injuries and some of the guys they have playing and some of the guys they have on this roster. They're not maybe as deep. So therefore, the special teams area is suffering a little bit because of the depth issues and injury issues they've had this season.
It almost feels like a lot of that. I don't disagree with what you're saying. There's some room for special teams improvement. I feel like a lot of that is you've seen a lot of long fields for the Bills, a lot of shorter fields for other teams. And it feels like just the offense kind of putting the defense in some bad spots and what that leads to, right? Like some takeaways that lead to short fields for the other team and sometimes not being able to get a first down when you need to. And that's led to some of that too. So it's the overall complementary football conversation. I think that contributes to that just as much as like, hey, maybe a lack of kick coverage, a lack of return ability.
And I understand that the punt game falls into that, but really kind of what I'm focusing on is that kickoff return.
Yeah.
And kickoff and kickoff return are the two areas that I'm kind of more focusing on than just punt, because like you said, I get that. I mean, the punt team is so, tied hand in hand with what the offense has done. And we know that they've made some blunders as far as that goes.
Quick side effect on this before we get to Joe's X Factor. What do the Bills do at receiver? Like, the numbers are about to get tight, right? I mean, if Hardman does ever return, or if Curtis Samuel does, I'm not quite sure. Even so, like, if Josh Palmer's back, is somebody scratched? What are the numbers there at the receiver's position? Because Keon Coleman got a lot of snaps the first time these two teams played, and I'm not sure that he's like, we might get a healthy scratch for Coleman or maybe Brandon Cooks. I'm not quite sure, but it's definitely something to monitor.
Yeah, 100%. The Bills are a little heavy with offensive line numbers. I think they have 10. So between receiver and O-line, I think you got to find your roster spot there. And so whether that's Chase Lunt stubbing his toe or, maybe Keon Coleman trips, something like that would be probably your most likely path to get that roster spot available.
Joe, time for your X Factor here. We've each got one. Jerry said return game. Your X Factor between Bills Patriots and number 2, matchup number 2.
Yeah, to me, it's the Bills and the experience factor and the callus that they've kind of built up throughout the years as a team that's been to the biggest of stages, a team that's paid their dues. They have their scars. And I think highly of New England. I think to the point where even some Bills fans are kind of mad at me, where they want me to like diminish the results of New England or make it like Drake Maye's not that good. And like, I'm sorry, I think they're a good football team, and I think Drake Maye's awesome. Like, you're going to have to live with me thinking that. And the reality is, though, is this is year one of Mike Vrabel, and it's a lot of young players and a team that hasn't really been through the adversity and stages that Buffalo's been through. And it makes me think a lot about the Denver wild card game last year, where, Denver was a good young football team with a young quarterback. You really liked their defense. But at the end of the day, that was the first time that group was in the playoffs. I know this is not a playoff game, but it's a significant one. It's a hat and t-shirt game, right? As Josh Allen would call it. They're going to be there. Those boxes will be in Foxborough. And it's one of those opportunities where you feel like the Bills have been in this spot where the Dolphins have had everything to lose in terms of divisional opportunity this time of year. And the Bills have been able to pull it out. And so I think my top X factor is just that vantage point of what Buffalo has been through compared to where New England is as a football team and how that should help Buffalo on Sunday afternoon.
Can I make a loose comparison that happened 4 days ago? Sunday, Packers, Bears, right? The Bears are having the Bears are having a good year. They're in the one spot. They have a divisional game against the Packers. What happened? Like, Green Bay got it done. And now the Bears, who are still having a good season, and there's a lot to like, they're just not supposed to be ready for this yet, right? You're not supposed to jump up that quickly. So I think it could be a very similar kind of thing where the Bills put them down, and it doesn't mean, the battles are over, but maybe this year we start talking about it differently. So experience. Jerry, how about that for New England? They have an experienced coach. Can that help them kind of bridge a gap they might have in big game experience?
It can a little bit, but it's like I talked about earlier. You can have all the pregame speeches you want. You can have all the rah-rah, the bulletin board material. When the ball's snapped, it's on. And the only people that are out there are the players. And, like Joe said, this Bills team is strained. It's faced adversity. It's faced adversity all season with a limited roster. It knows what it's about. And the guy that takes snaps, he's the ultimate guy in all that.
Yeah.
And, so to me anyway, if New England was able to put a good game together and beat the Bills this weekend, that just shows, kind of what Joe said, be mad at them all you want. This is a very good football team it's going to be around a while. So, but yeah, I mean, you can say all those things you want. It's out the window once the ball snaps.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably too much talk about like whose window is open, whose window closes. I would say this, though. This might be the last year the Bills get like a Patriots team that's not supposed to be ready yet. By next year, it might be window open for both teams. And that's something that's obviously like looming in the Bills' future. You
probably have 2 MVP finalists right here in Drake Maye and Josh Allen this year, and they're going to be in the division for the foreseeable future. And, in something that I've kind of thought about in recent years is, has there ever been like 2 of the like 4 or 5 best quarterbacks in the same division, right? It's usually not the case. And this could be a really unique situations where two of those guys are duking it out for years and years and years to come. And, obviously one's 23, one's 30, and
right.
We'll see how it goes.
It's got that Dan Marino, Jim Kelly feel to it.
Well, that was honestly like probably
that's the last one.
If you do the mental inventory of like when was the last time like two like A-list quarterbacks were in the same division, it's probably then.
Yeah.
It would have been Brady and Manning, but they broke those divisions up, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. This kind of brings me to my X factor, which is Drake Maye's second look. And I'll explain what I mean here. The Josh McDaniels Drake Maye pairing starts this year. So I want to kind of throw out last year. Might be a little convenient for me to do that, but I'm going to do it. Maye has not yet played the Dolphins a second time. He's not played the Jets a second time. The first team to A, get a second look at him, and B, he gets a second look at you is the Bills. Like, imagine if we had 2 other games already. Oh, Drake Maye in the second matchup against the Jets carved them up, or the Jets found answers. Like, the Bills are the first test of this to see what they have now that they've seen him once and to see what he throws at them. And I want to go a little further with this. The thing that Maye has not really had to do a lot of yet is back and forth shootouts. Your margin for error is small, right? When the Bengals and Bills are playing, Josh Allen, every time he got the ball down 21-11, it is, you must score. If you want to stay in the game, you must score. And I don't know how many game scripts New England's had like that. So you want to be an A-list true premier quarterback, you've got to show you can play those games. And I'm not here to say Drake Maye can't do it, but as soon as he does do that, I feel like anybody that's still sitting on the sideline saying, like, I want to see more, that's always a big moment for these quarterbacks. I feel like we all remember Josh against Seattle, right? And he goes for 500 yards. And Josh, of course, like the 13 seconds games. Those games are ones that make people believers. And I think that Sunday actually could end up looking like a little version of one of those.
It's fun to think about it like that, Jeremy. I mean, Drake has not been in one of those types of games, and like they've like the closest shootout they had was week 2 against Miami, 33-27, where I don't know, what was it, the Dolphins player like barely steps out of bounds, or else maybe that game's a little bit different. They got the 40 points, but they won 42-13 against Carolina. Every other game time that they scored 30, the other team scored less than 15. So that is interesting. Can you go haymaker for haymaker with Josh Allen? We'll find out.
And the other deal is this: it's not just Drake Maye. There's a lot of guys. It's their first time on that New England team. It's a young football team, a lot of young talent. So there's a lot of other guys that haven't done that as well. So it'll definitely be interesting to look at that.
The road there at Gillette, like in New England, is in terms of ranking the most difficult places to play. I don't often hear New England get mentioned like that, Jerry.
I thought the old Foxborough was worse than this one.
Yeah.
Stadium's wide open, right?
Yeah, the stadium's kind of wide open. The old Foxborough was much more on top of you, and the fans got after you a little bit more. But no, I don't think that's going to be a factor.
It's one thing as we count down like the last few games at Highmark. We just got a beauty of a game against the Bengals. Then it's Eagles and Jets. The new Highmark is so tight and like enclosed. Like, imagine the sound of the Christian Benford pick six in the new stadium. It's just going to be unbelievable. So
it has a vibe almost of a little what's the new stadium in New Jersey called? The new
MetLife.
It's got like a smaller version. It's got that gladiator feel to it.
Yeah, like
everything's
a Coliseum.
straight up and down. Yeah, Coliseum, or the other stadium I kind of think it's a lot like is out in Seattle because of that roof and the way that noise just hammers back down on the field. It's going to be a nasty place to play. There is no doubt about that. I'm excited about it, man. It's going to be sweet.
And looking for my key to the game, or X factor, I should say, I went through Drake Maye's splits. Like, all right, how's he do against this? How's he do against that?
It's all good, Jeremy.
You're so right. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah,
like I worked so hard. Drake Maye when leading, 11 touchdowns and 3 picks. Drake Maye when trailing, 10 touchdowns and 3 picks. Like you really can't find a hole. It's just like he does a lot. That's pretty impressive. So
the thing was the sack rate, right? Like he just took a lot of sacks, and he's still taking like 7 more sacks than any other quarterback that are his fault. But his sack rate over the last 4 games is 4.1%. It's 10.4%, like whatever the first 8 or 9 games. So he's gotten a lot better at that too. So not a lot of chinks in the armor, other than things that he hasn't done yet that maybe he hasn't had the chance to do.
And there's one other thing about I found this looking back at the the first matchup. The Bills sacked. Do you remember how many times they sacked him?
3.
4.
4. Okay.
4. How many yards did he lose on the 4
He
sacks?
doesn't lose. It's 6 yards. It's nothing.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
6.
Yeah.
And that's something else that, like, these tiny little margins where, hey, my quarterback takes sacks, but they're not drive killers,
Yeah.
right? If you are turning backwards and you take a 13-yard loss, that drive is over. You take a 2-yard loss, you're fine. It's like an incompletion. So it's another thing about him that is really nice. I mean, Allen, of course, has been great at avoiding sacks. And since the Houston game, it feels like they've had their answers, right? Whether the pressure hasn't been there against the teams that have come after Houston. After Houston, we were here freaking out like Josh is going to get hurt out there. And that has kind of just dissipated a little bit. We're feeling a little better about the way the line's communicating. I know we had that play against Cincinnati where Deion Dawkins took the right guy and Allen had the escape valve. So, right. Jerry, you think overall, like the Bills' pass protection and Allen have in the last couple of weeks, like, kind of found better plans?
A little bit. I do think they need to clean some things up and play a little bit better, especially individually. I think there's a few guys on the line of scrimmage who can do a little bit better. I know Deion had the concussion, came back. He needs to clean some things up. You have Osiris Torrance, who kind of is a roll of the dice. Some days you get really good stuff and some days you get really bad stuff. So, but they have done that, and they have shown a willingness, if they have to give some help as far as chips and backs and things like that. But no, I mean, I give Joe Brady credit. He's kind of said what he said as far as, I don't like to keep backs in because it brings more people in and all that. And you've seen after an absolute bloodbath in Houston, we've seen a few tweaks, but it's really kind of the same thing. So we'll see, because I thought New England did a really good job in their plan of keeping Josh Allen corralled in. And I've said this many times. I think other teams have studied New England and what they did in the first game in Orchard Park, and have utilized some of those schemes against the Bills. So we'll see if they have some answers for that.
We'll get a break in. We'll come back with some of your comments and questions you've dropped us. You can drop a couple in the stream chat if you want. You can always join us on YouTube. We stream the show live on YouTube. We have a midweek show and a post-game show. So always, if you can, join us. If not, of course, you can get it in the Locked On channel in podcast form. Back in a moment to wrap things up, give our picks, and get your comments and questions here on the Bill Squad Show. This episode of Bill Squad is brought to you by Car Gurus. Yeah, car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. And with Car Gurus, you get the confidence you deserve. They cut through all the noise. You can actually see the best details, the best deals on the cars you want. When it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal. Car Gurus makes that whole process simple, giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else. So you can shop the way you want. Using Car Gurus, you can filter by everything: mileage, trim, features. You're only seeing cars that actually fit what you need. The price drop alerts are a lifesaver. Get notified the second a car you're watching becomes a better bargain. The in-depth vehicle reviews help you understand what ownership actually looks like, not just how the car looks online. And having verified dealerships and upfront pricing makes the whole thing feel transparent and stress-free. So Car Gurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process. With over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace, you'll always find the best deal. Shop the way you want with the tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy. So buy or sell your next car today at cargurus.com. That's CARGURUS.com, cargurus.com. Back here on the Bill Squad Show, the plan for Sunday, I believe we're looking for a post-game show that might start at 5 o'clock, a little bit delayed after the Bills and Patriots have their 1 o'clock window. So be with us there. If there's any sort of change to that schedule, we will post it on social. But we're thinking like a 5 o'clock post-game maybe for Bills Patriots after that road tilt in Gillette Stadium. So stay tuned for that. And, of course, we look forward to speaking with you and talking about whatever happens here. For Bills Patriots picks, feeling good. I think the Mafia is riding high now, feeling pretty good. I know in New England, they are freaking out about being underdogs. They don't think they should be. So, gentlemen, what's the pick?
Go ahead, Joe.
I like the Bills in this game. I think week 5 was goofy. I think the Bills are a battle-tested team. I think that I'd be surprised if Josh Allen lost twice in the same season to the Patriots. I think the second look at New England probably benefits Buffalo more than it does New England. So I think the Bills get this done and stay alive in the division.
I like the Bills as well. And as much as we like to talk about New England and how they're playing, if you look at all major statistical categories, the only one that they have an advantage on over the Bills is overall passing efficiency. Other than that, the Bills have advantages in everything else. I like the Bills as well. I know that this New England defense has been stingy, but I think the Bills score points. I wouldn't even be shocked if they get into the 30s. And I think they win this football game. And I think they prove themselves in December once again that if you want to get to where you want to be, you're going to have to make sure you handle the Bills.
I think the Bills will win as well. I think this time the game script will be a lot friendlier for James Cook. If New England can't stop the run like they could earlier in the year, then the Bills can kind of lean into that. Maybe we see more play action. We saw a ton of it against Cincinnati. So keeping that a part of what they do, Dalton Kincaid healthy and good to go. He had 100 yards in the first matchup. I think he could have another big game. And Dawson Knox, like maybe the Bills see what they got from Knox against Cincinnati and think more opportunities here for him. So backs and tight ends, and I think the Bills will win this game.
Well, it's funny you say that about tight ends. And we talked about it. Another thing I looked at maybe X factor wise is Dalton Kincaid. Josh Allen's thrown 0 interceptions when Dalton Kincaid's on the field. He's got 111.2 passer rating, and with Kincaid on the field in 25. When Kincaid's not on the field, 10 interceptions, 97.4 passer rating. So it's obvious tight ends are important, and especially the guy that wears number 86.
Got something for Jerry here. And I can't take full credit for this. Sal Capaccio has brought this to light. But in 1998, there was a game played in Foxborough.
Mm-hmm.
Right tackle for the Buffalo Bills that day was none other than Jerry Ostroski, who is to my left. Bills take a loss here, and it's a really goofy loss. 4th and 9. They call it a catch. Clearly wasn't a catch. Then there's a Hail Mary that they call a DPI on, and there's no DPI. They get one untimed down from the one. Drew Bledsoe finds Ben Coates in the corner of the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember about that day?
That was a miserable day. That was a very miserable day. It's funny. I do a good job of eating situations like that and putting them way deep down inside, and I'm not real happy that you drug it back out of me. But no, yeah, it was one of those games where nothing went right. I mean, we had so many things called against us, and it was weird. Like, I don't know if there was something with Wade or whatever, but we had a lot of really weird penalty calls and things like that, decisions by officials when Wade was the head coach that went against us. And that was another one of those games, untimed down from the one. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah. Is that the just give it to him game?
Yeah.
Before the Hail Mary, there's a throw to Sean Jefferson on the sideline, and they're like, just give it to him. He was in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Jerry, 12 penalties against the Bills for 107 yards, but Doug Flutie only sacked one time. I know Jerry Ostroski and John Fina had our guy taken care of that one.
Well, Flutie also did a good job of making sure he didn't get sacked.
Hey,
but no, I'm trying.
Yards passing, man. He was
I think
on it.
that was 98. I think that was when I think that was not too long after they pulled me out of the guard spot and put me outside there. Was that the year we played Denver? We played Denver that year.
In the playoffs, you played Miami. You were the right tackle for this game.
Right, I know. I'm just trying to think. I can't remember exactly what year I got pulled up into the right tackle spot. I think it was not long after that. So it was because when I went out with my broken leg, and the first game back was in that damn stadium again in Foxborough against New England, and went back out at right tackle. But yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah, to play him twice in 3 weeks. That can't be too cool, right? Like playing the same team like that, and that's going to happen a bunch here across the league.
Yeah. I don't know why they do that. I really don't.
I hate it. It's why I love
it sucks.
Last year they played twice in 3 weeks. Now you've got a gap, and good. We get to see 2 different games, different personnel, different ideas. All right, a couple comments and questions here, and I'm going to steal your takes on takes segment, Joe, from your Locked On, you and Kyle when you do that. But first, Brandon writes in, what do you think the plan is with Bernard? No way we keep Shaq off the field, in my opinion. This, of course, is like the $1 million question.
Yeah.
The Bills, I will note this, the Bills have played 4 times as much base defense this year as last year. So they're getting more linebackers on the field in general. And could the deterioration of Taron Johnson lead them in that direction a little bit more, do you think? Like, New England's not exactly an explosive running team. And if Shaq Thompson's out there, I feel like you might feel good enough. So what do you think the plan is?
I think if there is a plan of him coming back from the arm injury to reduce wear and tear on that elbow, and then we supposedly, and I think Jeremy, you talked about it on the radio today and talked about it with Sal a little bit, talking about the ankle the health of Bernard's, ankles and all that, he's the dime linebacker or the nickel linebacker. So when they make this change, they bring him in and allow him to play the deep middle, drop into that rat in a hole type coverage and let him do that stuff. But as far as rundowns, leave in what you got because it's working too good.
I don't feel like the Bills are going to have a ton of urgency to get Bernard back out there. Just kind of going back to what Sean McDermott said in the Carolina game and how it's my decision. It's my decision, that Bernard's going to dress, but only play if there's an emergency. And, Shaq Thompson had a little hamstring deal that affected him or for a bit. And then, Bernard goes back out there. You see some of the struggles. He has the elbow deal. I think it's undeniable to anybody with two eyes. Maybe if you have one, that Shaq Thompson's the best middle linebacker that this team has. And I think you just kind of keep Terrell around in case you need him. But I have a hard time believing he's the guy that can give you the best chance. I mean, even the communication piece, this team gets lined up. They're ready to go under Shaq. When Terrell Bernard, he's talking while the quarterback's, barking out his cadence. So this operation is better than with Shaq. I think it's obvious to everyone. And I think the Bills will kind of hide Terrell for as long as they can.
I have to ask this, and I know this is change of pace, so we can do it real quick, but you guys got young kids. I've got 26 and 23-year-old that watched it because it was in the heyday of their childhood. When you said one eye, it made me think about it.
Willie?
Did your
Goonies?
The Goonies is good, but
okay.
Did your kids watch the Monsters Inc. game on Monday night?
Yeah.
I had two stinking 20-year-olds that were ecstatic. They were laughing. They were texting each other on the FaceTime. I thought that was pretty hilarious, actually. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah,
they had Mike Wazowski and Sully each scored touchdowns, right? Yeah.
Yeah, J.P. Sullivan's already signed an extension with or I can't remember. He got signed by somebody for like $500 million.
Nice.
And Wazowski got cut already.
James writes in, Ed Oliver did 20 push-ups on X, and I also saw him running.
Yeah.
Jerry, you say don't fall for that, right? Timeline's a timeline.
Yeah. Also, push-ups don't stress the bicep. They stress
tricep, right?
They stress the tricep. So there's illusion to this whole thing as well.
AC writes in, do you think Bosa will play? Do they want him 100%? Is there a number that's not 100 where you would play him in this game, given its importance for the division? What's the number? 93, 87, 75. Like, what's your number?
Did you watch Morgan Fox and Javon Solomon out there try to play against the Bengals, man? My number might not be too high to get Bosa on the field. I mean, they're playing Sanders at edge. I mean, they're in trouble, man.
There's an old saying, and it would you rather have Joey Bosa at 75% or those two guys at 100%? I'll take Joey Bosa at 75%.
All right, very good. And finally, I'm stealing your takes on takes, Joe. I heard today, I should say I saw it. We played it on WGR in Boston. The same panel that after the Patriots beat the Bills in the Hurricane game, where they got up there and they said the 11-month reign of the Buffalo Bills is over. Remember that? Okay, yeah, one of my favorite clips ever because 4 years later, the reign still goes. They suggested that if the Bills lose this game, the word they used was fumigate, that they must fumigate the organization and keep no one but the quarterback. And who should they hire? Mike Tomlin or Josh McDaniels. That was if the Bills lose this game, everybody should get fired, and Mike Tomlin or Josh McDaniels should take over the franchise and Josh Allen. So I'm asking for your take on that take.
Very, very respectfully disagree
with
the sentiment. Yeah, that's so weird, right? Like that's so goofy.
Joe, that deserves a what are we doing here from you? Right? Like,
you know what? That's a thing that I say that people have brought to my attention, but I guess I say that a decent amount. But what are we doing here? You know? Yeah.
Put it on a shirt.
What are we doing here? Yeah. That's exactly what it is. We call in the true spirit of takes on takes, we call that a tattle take, where you tell on somebody for a bad take that they have. So good job on breaking up a tattle take. That's a horrible thought. It's a horrible thought.
How about this? Brandon writes in, if we don't run play action, what are we doing? In a Joe Marino voice. What are we doing here?
Man, I think I'm kind of aware of some of the things I said, but that's one that's been brought to my attention recently that I'm like, oh, I guess that is a thing.
That needs to be a t-shirt.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. What are we doing? We're getting out of here. And then we'll be back for some Bills-Patriots post-game. So thanks for listening, watching, streaming, commenting, all of it. It's been a pleasure. Hope you enjoyed the game on Sunday. And, we'll be back to talk about it. Wishing all of you and yours a very happy holidays as well in this this holiday season. So Bills Patriots, Sunday 1 o'clock, big one. We'll talk to you afterwards. Until then, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Much love. Go Bills.